All right, great. Let me see what's wrong with my camera. All right, I guess everyone can see now. Cool. All right, welcome back after a few weeks. Oh, by the way, can anyone just say something so I know that audio is working
Hi.
mine as well as yours? All right, great. So people can hear me. Can people see me? Hello.
Yeah, we can see you. Or I
All
can.
right. Yeah. And are you able to see the screen? You know, like I'm sharing our homework from 2 weeks ago. Can you see that as well?
Yes.
All right, great. That's all great to hear. Now let's continue. So hope you guys had a good vacation, good 2 weeks, good Diwali. This is the homework position, right? Or not?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Okay, so the silence makes me think that not many people have attempted the homeworks, but let's go. Let's go through with these positions one by one. Actually, let's take a few minutes to warm up. You know, like some of you have shared the answers in the homework with me, but I think a few of those answers were wrong. So if you have already found the solution to this homework position, you can share that on the chat with me. And if you have not found it out, then this is your time to think. Let's just give you guys like another 10 minutes to think on this position. This is white to play and win. The theme that we have been studying so far, it's called overloaded piece, like one piece protecting too many pieces or protecting too many squares for that matter. So yeah, I think so that's what we've been studying, and that's what the homework is based on. So here's your 10 minutes. Start thinking on it. If you found the solution, you can just send it on chat to me privately. All right. Let's take a look at it. So I think Anushka sent me the right answer and all the variations. So let's ask her to share the solution with white. So before we proceed, Anushka, can you answer one question for me? Which piece of black is overloaded and what it is overloaded with? So let me unmute you.
You can go rook d5 check.
No. Answer one question for me. Which piece of black is overloaded?
The knight.
Okay, this knight on f4, right?
Yeah.
And what it is overloaded with, like, so overloaded essentially means it's doing too many things. It's protecting too many squares or pieces, right? Pieces or squares. So which pieces or squares is it protecting?
Rook d5.
Okay, so I'll say that it's stopping the threat of rook d5. That's one square it's protecting. And which is the other one? Okay, yeah. So Shubhang answered this for us. So that's a good job, Shubhang. The knight is also protecting the square on the e2, and I think this is the more important one. So say if this knight didn't exist, if I take out this knight, then I can simply play bishop e2 check, and black comes in a mating knight, right? It comes. You place king a5, then rook a7 check, and then you have this mate, right? So you have this mating pattern.
Yeah.
So, however, white cannot immediately play bishop e2 because of this knight. And on the other hand, we also have the d5 square. So we just need to find out the right sequence, whether to play rook d5 first or bishop e2 first.
Can I speak?
How about we finish this variation? Maybe send your question to me privately, Adip. Let's just continue with this with Anushka for now, and then I'll give you a chance to speak. Does that sound okay?
Okay.
Cool.
So,
right. So bishop e2 cannot be played, and that's why white plays rook d5 check. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So how does your variation go? I think the first move we need to consider is knight into d5.
Yeah.
Right. So knight into d5. Then what?
Bishop e2 check.
Bishop e2 check. Right. And now the knight doesn't protect it. He can play d3.
Bishop x d3.
Bishop takes d3.
King a5.
King a5.
Rook a7.
Rook a7 and rook a6, and then you have checkmate, right?
Yes.
Yes. So that's
not
good variation. I'm sorry?
It's not forced.
How do you mean?
Like, you could have just moved your, like when he did the rook check, you could have just moved your king.
That's the other variation.
Right. Sadip, how about you just hold on a few minutes? If you have your variations, you can send it to me on chat. Like I will give you credit publicly if you can send me all your variations on the chat. But yeah, I mean, like we were getting there. Okay, so we were getting there. So all right, so let's just go back. So it seems that things are pretty much forced after bishop e2. All right, and then this mate is forced. And as Adip, our friend Adip has identified, after rook d5 check, black has another option. So one alternative is to take the rook. The other alternative is to move the king to a6. Now what, Anushka?
And then bishop c8 check.
And now bishop c8, right? So yes, now bishop c8 check, and black is, like, king is cannot move anywhere. He has to give up his rook. There are a few ways to continue here. Like white can just take on b7 with his bishop and save his rook. He has a lot of material, but I think white can also go for a straight checkmate. Devesh and also Shubhang shared this. So white can continue with rook d6 check, right? If he plays king a7, then rook b7 check, king a6, rook a6 mate. So that's one variation. After rook d6 check, if he plays, now he can go king a5, king b5. If he plays king a5, then white gives rook c5 check. Black can play rook b5 and now rook a6 checkmate. That's another variation. And finally, black can also play king to b5, where he's controlling the c5 square. He is not allowing rook c5, but in this case, white plays bishop d7 check, king to, black has nowhere else to go but king to a5, and then rook c5 checkmate. So yeah, I mean, like, there are a few ways to just rook c5, rook b5, and then checkmate. So yeah, I mean, like, I think after bishop c8, white is clearly winning. He gains decisive material, but white can also go for the mate if he wants to. But I'd say, like, bishop c8, white wins. White wins decisive material, and that's good enough for me. We can stop our calculations there. So both Shubhang and Devesh identified this. So good job, Shubhang and Devesh. All right, so that's the solution to this problem. Rook d5 check, and then black and king a6, and then bishop c8. And if he takes knight into d5, then bishop e2, and this checkmate. All right. So any questions? Adip, do you have any questions or any comments?
No.
All right. Yeah, so like, continuing with our theme of the day or theme of the week, we are studying overloaded pieces, which means that one of your opponent's pieces is doing too many things. It's just protecting too many pieces, or it's protecting too many squares, or either it's protecting a piece and a square. And if you test its limits, your opponent's position forms. Like, so that's what we are looking here at knight f4. But however, here, like, the sequence also matters. Your calculations do matter. If you play bishop e2 check on the first move, black can take, obviously, and then after rook d5, you don't get the same thing. Black can play king a6, and now you're missing the bishop on c8. Like bishop on g4, where it can give a check. That does not exist. And so white is not doing good here. So it would be a mistake to change the move order. You have to, so that thing you have to calculate. Ultimately, like, once you've identified an overloaded piece, an overworked piece, you do have to calculate the details by yourself, the accurate details. Okay. So that cares take of that. I'm gonna save this solutions. If for any of you, like, I sense that a few of you are silent. So it seems to me that probably this position was a bit too complex for you. Don't worry. I'm gonna upload the solution for this exercise online. So feel free to take a look at it offline, like, after the lesson. And If you have any questions when you look at that offline, feel free to ping me. You can always send me an email about your questions. If you don't understand a variation, I can always answer that for you. So for the people who have been staying silent, look at the solutions after the lesson. Look at your own pace, okay? Okay. Save it, then I'm gonna upload it to Drive. Okay, so next homework position. Who has, who wants to share the solution? Or do you guys want to take a few minutes to think on this? I guess let's give everyone a few minutes to think on this, because in the submissions, I didn't find a lot of, actually, I didn't find a right answer. So to me, like a right answer is where you're also calculating your opponent's best moves. Like you're calculating your opponent's alternatives. Like if it's very how shall I put it? It's very amateurish, or like too simplistic to just calculate a variation which works for you, okay, and not calculate what different alternatives your opponent can play. So for instance, in this position, I can say white plays something like queen h4 and black plays queen e7, and then white takes queen into h6, black plays rook d8, white plays d into e7 and win. Okay, so this variation, yes, white wins, but this is a very, very stupid variation. And I guess you guys understand my point, because white's first move itself is a blunder, right? Black can take rook into h4, black doesn't have to play queen e7, and so on and so forth. So what I'm trying to say here is that I haven't seen good defense from the from black side when I saw your submissions. So like there was just like one move given, and then you're not calculating the best defense black can put up when looking for a solution here, or looking for a way for white to win. Now, having said that, the variation is somewhat forced, and like all of these variations we're looking at, they're forced, meaning that for each of the alternative your opponent can play, for each of the alternative black can play, white has a way to force things. He has a way to force things and win the game. That's what I'm trying to say. So look at alternatives, look at better defensive alternatives that black can play. That's one of the key things I think all of you are missing. Like, look at the best defense your opponent can play. If one variation does not work for your opponent, okay, if a variation does not work for your opponent, meaning you're finding a win for white, then look at a different variation, look at a different alternative that black can play, look at a different move black can play and increase his defense. Okay, so that's very important. That's what I want you guys to think on in this position. Now, having said that, again, okay, let's give you guys some time, white to play and do it. All right, seems like people have come to a roadblock. No one's sending any variations and not able to find anything. I think so Shivang is the one who has come closest. He has found the right idea, but I think he lacks the right execution. And anyway, all right, so I think we have one variation from one of our friends. Yeah, so I got a few variations from a few friends, few of your friends. I'm not going to take names, but what I'll say is that I do see some visualization errors and problems. So just able to keeping track of where the pieces are on the board. So I guess some of you are still having those problems. That's good for me to know. So I can suggest remedies for that. But let's look at one variation I got. So one variation I got, which was rook into g6, rook into g6, queen into g6, and then king f8, and then queen g8 check, and then king e7. But obviously, black cannot play king to e7. So that's one visualization error. But I guess even the first one is that black can simply take the queen. So yeah, so I guess this is a very simple case of visualization, but that's why rook into g6 doesn't work. Another variation I got was rook e5, queen d7, queen d7, rook into e8, queen into e8, and then the variation is like rook into g6 again. And obviously, I think what you missed here was that the rook on g5 has already been exchanged with the rook on e8, right? So this rook on g5 was exchanged with the rook on e8, so that's why you cannot play a rook into g6 again. So that's just not possible. So keep an eye out for these kind of visualization errors. I guess they are more serious than not finding the solution. So if you're not able to find solution, we can work on it. Like we can see the solution, but at least you should be able to keep track of where the pieces are on the board in your head, because that's like the base level you should be at, or you should try to be at. I will reply to you guys privately, but keep that in mind. Another variation I got was rook e5, queen f6, and okay, rook into e8 check, and then king h7, and then I think it was like queen into g6, rook into g6. I think I can understand why the variation played queen into g6, because you're trying to remove the defender of h8 square. Rook into g6 and rook h8 checkmate. And obviously, what the calculator missed, what one of your friends missed, was that the bishop on f6 has been taken away by the queen. So if white's bishop was on f6, then yeah, this would have been a mate. But this is another instance of visualization error. That the error is that on the first mate itself, black has already taken white's bishop. So you don't have that mating pattern anymore. Otherwise, it would have been a really good solution, but it's a visualization error. Okay, now after a few of those variations, I've got another variation from one of your friends. But I'm just gonna, like share the right variation. At least you guys had a chance to exercise your brains over these problems. I still haven't gotten the accurate variation. Another right idea from Devesh, but not the right execution. So let's just take a look at it. Rook e5, queen d7. So after rook e5, queen d7 is sort of forced. If black takes queen into f6, white plays rook into e8 check, obviously. He can play king h7 or king g7, doesn't matter. Let's say he plays king h7 and then white plays d7. That's the correct move. And white queens his pawn. And black doesn't have any threat against white's king or white's queen or white's rook. There are no threats against white's king or rook. And black cannot prevent the promotion of white's pawn, right? And which means white will have decisive material advantage, which is like he's going to have an extra queen. So that's, I think, winning variation, of course. So rook e5, black has to protect this rook on e8. That he can do that by queen d7 or queen c8. Both moves are roughly similar. So for queen d7, they just transpose rook into e8, queen into e8. And I think I can understand the motivation. So white has this fantastic passed pawn on d6, right? So all it needs is to just go to d7 and then it can queen. But the problem with d7 is that black can take queen into d7 and the pawn will be lost. So that's the problem there. Two variations that I got, actually exactly identical variations. I'm assuming you guys are not sharing variations, but I'll give it the benefit of doubt. So two variations I got was like play queen g4 and then try to play d7. I think this is not a bad idea, but with both of the variations, like people are saying, like I got the variation as queen f8 and then d7, and then queen d6 check, and then queen f4. I think queen f4 is a brilliant move. You're exploiting the pin on the g file. So obviously there are a few variations. If black takes queen into f4, then e into f4, and you cannot prevent the queening of white's pawn. So white wins here if black takes queen into f4. However, the key test for black's for white's idea is what happens if black takes queen into d7. Well, if black takes queen into d7, that variation I just did not get it. I did not get that variation either from from one of your friends, but I got the variation from Shubhang, which is queen b8 check, king h7, and then queen h8 check. Fantastic. So Shubhang, very nice, very good. That's you have shown very good calculation and imagination skills. And finally, rook g7 mate. Right. So this is what was Shubhang's variation. That's the whole variation he shared. So Shubhang, very nice. But so I think this variation looks good. It's the right idea, but I don't think. But I think you could have implemented it better. The reason I say that is because after queen g4, queen f8, I don't think is the right defense, or I don't think it's like a good move. A better move here is playing queen b8. Like instead of giving the check and taking the pawn, why not just pin the pawn And okay, that kind of prolongs the game now. So yeah, and if queen f4, then I think black can play king h7. Yeah, and this I think white is still better. So I will grant that white's position was better from the start. Okay, so white is still better, but we have not seen the kind of finish, like the finish that I was expecting to see in your solutions. Like this is still a little bit unclear. White is better, but white is still not won the game, or he does not have any decisive advantage or a meeting point here. Yeah, king h7, and now d7 doesn't work because okay, I can just stick that into f4. Now rook d7 check, then again play king h8, and it's not clear. So all right, so I think queen b8 is a better defense. And how shall I say it? Prolongs the game. Okay, so that's what I will say here. But okay. Aha, okay. So after queen g4, queen b8, yeah, not a lot of things here. But now, Shubhang, I will tell you that you did find the right idea, just not the right execution. After queen into e8, okay, so this is our start position, right? So rook e5, queen d7, take. White need not play queen g4 for pushing the pawn. He can immediately push the pawn directly. And we're essentially transposing to the variation shared by Shubhang, like his end variation. So d7, I think 2 exclamation. Obviously, black has to take. If he doesn't take, then I'm going to queen my pawn, right? That's extra queen. That's winning. The take, and I think Shubhang, now your position comes into effect. Just play queen b8 check. The queen cannot go anywhere. If it goes, white just takes. The knight cannot come to f8 because there is this pin from the rook. So knight to f8 is stopped, and black's only move is king h7, and then white plays queen h8 check. Knight into h8, and the rook g7 checkmate. Right. So that's the forcing and like the most precise way for white to end the game. Like anywhere there is in any of this anywhere in this variation, black doesn't have a chance to get out of his mess. Like he doesn't have an adequate defense. Okay, so that's all well and good. Any questions on the solution itself? Do you think? Do you guys have any questions as to what happens? Like any variation I have not covered, or if you don't understand why any of the moves is working or not. Okay, so no questions. That's a good thing. The next question I want to ask is, okay, we are studying overloaded pieces. And let me ask this question to Shubhang, because I think he gave the most precise solution, or at least the right idea. But let's start with him, and then if he cannot answer, then I'll give a chance to other students. But let's ask Shubhang. So Shubhang, we are studying overloaded pieces. Okay, so this is the concept we are studying for the day: overloaded piece. Can you tell me which piece was overloaded in the variation that we saw? Like, where did that topic came into effect? Like, where did that pattern came into effect? You have to unmute yourself.
Yeah. So I was thinking I don't know for sure, but I think it's either the knight or the queen, because since the knight was pinned, it wasn't able to defend e5.
Okay, so I think I will say knight pinning is the pin topic,
Yeah.
not the overloaded piece. So you said about the queen. That's interesting. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
So the first move of the variation, it was e5, and in that one, the queen it had to defend the rook,
Okay.
but at the same time, it couldn't go forward to kill the rook. So in that variation, black has no choice but to exchange rooks,
Right.
and that leaves the last rank very vulnerable, because like you
Good.
said, you can just play d7,
Right.
and now the queen has no choice but to take d7,
Right. Right. I
and
think, yeah. Go on.
now with so then the queen just takes d7, and then the variation plays out, and
Right.
it's checkmate.
Right.
So there's no other defenders on the last rank.
Right. Good. Good. I think you made a good attempt, and I think it was still a good explanation. Yes. So when we started from the position, there were no overloaded pieces. To be honest, there wasn't any piece of black which was defending too many squares, or maybe it was, but we didn't take advantage of it. Why it was not able to take advantage of it until now? So this is the moment. This is the moment in this position, in this problem, where this is the moment in this problem and exercise where we are really seeing an overloaded piece. And that piece is the black queen itself. The black queen, first of all, it's defending the back rank, okay? So it's defending this threat of queen b8 check and queen h8 check, that whole mating pattern. So that's one like duty or responsibility it has to protect the back rank. But now there is the second threat that it has to defend, which is the pawn on d7. It has to protect, protect against this pending promotion on the d8 square. So, and this is where we see this example of overloaded piece. The queen is overloaded with the responsibility of stopping the d pawn from promoting and from protecting the back rank. So this is the instance of the overloaded piece. So that's, I think, one thing I wanted to share with you guys, that what we are studying is definitely coming into effect. It just manifests itself in different ways. So I think the first position was a bit simplistic, where the bishop was just the black's knight was protecting the e2 square and the d5 square. That's what's pretty simplistic, but as you study higher and higher, more complex positions, these tactical elements will manifest themselves in different ways, or in more complex ways. First of all, you do have to identify that black's back rank is weak, and so once you identify that, then I think coming to the conclusion that d7, you can give the pawn by d7, that can come pretty easily after that. All right, good job, Shubhang. I'll just make a note here. Any questions in the meantime? Okay. So let's just go over it over the top, and then we'll take a break and continue with our homework evaluation. All right, so rook e5. Or black has to defend. If it takes, then simply take the rook and promote my pawn. Okay, so it's very simple here. If it doesn't take, if you place queen d7 or queen c8, the same thing, take, and then we get our beautiful deflection. We are taking advantage of the overloaded piece, takes, and then queen b8 check. The knight is pinned, king h7, queen h8 check, head into h8, and then rook g7 checkmate. Beautiful pattern. Again, for the people who are, if any of you are following bit fast one to follow this, I highly encourage you to look at the notes in your free time. It's very important that you do. Okay, and I think this is worth mentioning that queen g4. Queen g4 is also a good move, but it just prolongs the game. That's how I would put it. Queen b8, and then white is better, but it prolongs the game. That's how I put it. So you pin it, and then okay, white has to think some new idea, or maybe just transpose with queen g3. Like, and then again you're threatening d7, maybe you come queen c8 and then d7, something like that. So in any case, so that's our solution to this problem. Any questions? Okay, feel free to ping me with any questions. We will be taking a short break. We'll resume by 11:55. Okay, so it's 10:43. Let's make it 11:58. All right, let's split for a break. Sorry, not 11. We will come back by 10:58. Okay. We are only taking 15 minutes break, not an hour break. 15 minutes. All right, welcome back from the break. Hope you guys are back. So let's continue where we left off. Yeah, I think this position was probably a bit simpler than the previous one in the sense that white's plan seems to be straightforward. Yeah, so first move white plays is queen h6, and the very simple fact that this bishop is defending a mating threat makes it overloaded, right? So if you take bishop into h6, then you have knight e7 check. And if you take bishop into f6, then obviously that's, we know, knight into f6, king h8, and queen h7 mate. And yeah, I guess only one last variation remains, which is maybe another variation is that bishop h8, still knight e7 mate. So, and you can get queen d4 check, but then I just take bishop into d4, and again, if you take the rest is mate. And if you take it with bishop into d4, it's a check, but then my queen is not under attack, so I have a decisive material advantage. Yeah, so queen h6, and if black plays knight e6 or knight e8, right, both lead to the same thing. Bishop to g7, knight into g7, then knight f6, and mate. And if you play something else like 5 or something to stop this mate, yeah, then just take bishop into f8. And white has a lot of material. Same thing with knight e6, take. You play like 5 or something, then just take, and white is a rook up. Don't need to sweat a lot about it. All right. So yeah, this one was pretty simple. Like once you find this brilliancy, the rest is like not that difficult. So you just have to spot this mating pattern with bishop and knight. All right. So I'm glad that one was not that difficult. Let's take a look at the next one. Any questions before I proceed? Devesh, Shubhang, Anushka, Adit, Archit, Redina, Anvita, Niveta. Any questions? Any questions? All right. Cool. Let's move on. So the last in our exercise series is this position. I really like this one. This is fantastic. Cool. So I don't think I got the kind of answers I was looking for. So yeah, this position is double-edged. Obviously, white has some mating threats with his bishop, queen, and rook, but black also is trying to promote his queen, promote his pawns, and also attacking the rook. So let's take a look at this position with a fresh mind. I didn't receive a lot of correct answers. In fact, I don't think I did. Any answer was precise or accurate. But let's take a look at it. If you know the solution, if you have found the solution, text it to me on Zoom. Be careful, don't share the answer with everyone. Click the drop down and share that answer only with me. Click the drop down, and where it says my name, just do that. Just share it with me. Okay, I mean, I think this point is worth repeating. You should look at good moves by your opponent. Okay, so like a variation where, say, white plays queen into d6, and then black plays rook f8 and rook into f8. This is a very, very bad and stupid variation, to be honest. Why would black play rook f8? Why? What is the reason for black playing rook f8? There is absolutely no reason for black to play rook f8. So, like, be cognizant of giving your opponent respect. So don't expect that your opponent is just going to hand you free points. Rook f8 is a very bad move. Why would your opponent play rook f8? So, like, if you don't share variations like this, be careful. Like, try to think if the move you are considering for your opponent, if it is a good move or not. Anyway, so white to play. Think about good moves from your opponent. It at least has to be a bit obvious. Okay, so how about I just discuss a few variations, sensible variations that I got from a few of your friends. So one variation that I got was Queen E6. In fact, this move was found by a couple of you. So Queen E6, the obvious, like one obvious variation we have to check is what happens if Black takes Queen into E1 check. If Queen into E1 check, then White plays King H2. That's forced. Now Black's Rook is under attack. Queen's Rook on C8. So what can Black do? So let's say Black plays something like Rook B8. He protects his Rook. Then White will take Rook into F7. And Bishop into F7. Then I play Queen F6. And then there is this mate, right? There is this mate. And Black cannot do anything to stop it. He has no checks and no defense. So White wins here. Now that's good. That's good. But let's on the first move, Queen E6. A couple of you found like a better defense for Black, and I think that's a very good sign. So kudos to Devesh and Shubham for at least finding the good defense for Black on the first move. Black can just play Queen D8, right? So White's idea is not only to just take the Rook on C8, but his idea is also to take the Rook on F7 and then put a mating threat by playing Queen F6. And here, if he tries to do that, then that's not possible. Then Queen F6 is no more possible. So I think that's a good sign. Then so Queen D8, and then one variation continued, which was AB3. Okay, White takes this pawn. Black can take C into B3 or C3, and then White plays Bishop G5. Okay, this is a decoy. The reason this Bishop White Black cannot take is because I play Queen into C8. But after Bishop G5, the better move would be Queen D7. But I got the variation Queen E7, and I think this is a visualization error that you should be able to see that the queen is losing by Bishop into E7, or even the Rook is hanging, so all of that stuff. And then for some reason, I saw like the variation continued, Rook into F7, and then Queen into E6. Okay, I guess here Black definitely wins. White definitely wins piece, but I mean, Queen E7 itself is a bad move. Like I would expect that Queen E7 would not be played here. At least Queen D7, and then yeah, like then now you can take Rook into F7, and now if Queen into F7, then you can take Queen into C8. I suppose so. Yeah, I think that's one possibility. And if you take Bishop into F7, then there's Queen into D7. So White wins there. But I guess that's one variation possible. But I'm looking at a better variation.
I have an idea.
Adib, can you share your idea with me on the text privately, if you can?
Okay.
Why don't you just go ahead and share it?
Okay. So Queen to G7.
No, so this is the position. White cannot play Queen D7.
Wait, I thought it was white's turn.
Yeah, it is white's turn. White cannot place queen to d7.
I'm not saying D7, I'm saying G7.
Oh, g7. Okay, interesting. Now what?
Rook is forced to play.
Take, and then all right. So I think your variation basically ended after one move. So I think Adip, you should try to work on your visualization. You know, like if your variation just ends on the first move, that's not really a good sign. Need to keep track of where the pieces are moving when you're playing them out. Yeah, so that doesn't work. Let's give it another shot before we move on. Okay, so I'm gonna. Okay, I guess we can continue with our Devis's variation. Queen e6 is interesting. Queen d8, then bishop g5. That's also there. And I think what we saw here, instead of just putting a b3 c3, you can just play bishop g5. And here black can just play queen c7. That's a better approach. Yeah, and I don't see, you know, like a mate or any other way for white to continue. Okay, I guess one way is just take a into b3 and then maybe c3. Yeah, you can play c3 or you can also play c into b3. And yeah, I guess white can take rook into b3. He has an extra pawn with a slight advantage. Okay, so I guess that's a variation that's possible. So white has one pawn, slight advantage because it's opposite color bishops. So probably that's one way for white to go. But let's take a look at the actual solution here. So queen e6, I guess the idea, you know, like it's very much in the same vein, but I think it's also what Adip mentioned was really interesting. You know, like I think what he was trying to do was queen g7 check, rook into g7, and I think he was trying to do this checkmate, but the rook is in the way, right? So the rook on g7 is in the way. That's why rook f8 is not a mate. So as I said, you know, like you need both. You need the right idea as well as the right execution, and you need good calculation skills. You need good visualization skills. So you need all of these skills to become a good chess player, or you know, like to be better at chess. You need all these skills: good visualization, good calculation, the right idea, and the right execution. Now, what white does on his first move is really interesting. So queen e6 is not our answer, but white plays queen e7 the first move. And I think I really like this position because of white's first move, because not only is he just you know, like he's putting mating threats. Okay, so if black takes rook into e7, then we have rook f8 checkmate, right? So that's one idea. If black takes rook into f3, then I have queen g7 checkmate. So I already have this, but let's say black plays something like queen into e8, okay? Or maybe, okay, if he plays queen into e1, then I have king h2, and I already have all the previous things. But let's say he plays queen d8, okay, challenging white's queen. The thing here is that not only is this white doing this mating threats, but he's also actively threatening another mate, queen f8 check. So so white sneakily mates black's king here. So he just goes queen e7 and queen f8, and black cannot do anything, and he's threatening this beautiful checkmate. I guess all of white's moves here require a diagram, right? So that's the difference between queen e6 and queen e7. Like after queen d8, I'm not just waiting to see what I can do. I'm actively threatening a mate here. So that's the reason I like this position very much. This sneaking in of white's queen e7, and then queen f8. This is really interesting. So that's the solution. You know, like once you take a look at it, you lose the you know, like it kind of becomes obvious, and you lose the magic of it. But it's really hard to find this if from the starting position that something like this is possible. And this is the piece path that white does. He just sneaks across the black rook. So the black is rook is on f7, and white says, okay, I'll just sneak across it. Queen e7 and queen f8. It's like going around the fence, you know, like you go around the fence like this. So that's why I like this position very much. Yeah, and then mate. Let's take a look at from the top. I know it's there isn't much to be seen once you take a look at this, but yeah, that's why queen e7. Yeah, queen e7, and then queen if you take queen into e1 check, then you have king h2, and you're again always threatening queen f8 mate. If you place queen into e4, you can also do something that before queen f8. Again, it's this checkmate. That's the difference between queen e6 and queen e7. Start after queen d8, I won. Other moves, you know, like you can ask why does queen d6 work? I would say that queen d6, yes, white is still better, but probably not winning, because now I can take rook into f3, or can I play queen c5? Maybe I can play queen c5. Yeah, and now the absence of the d pawn gives me the defense. If you play queen f8 now, then I can take queen into f8. That's the thing. So the d pawn is gone. So you can play queen c5 here. So okay, if he takes, then maybe what can you play? Oh, you're threatening rook f7 and queen g7 mate. I don't know, maybe queen c7. Yeah, maybe you can play queen c7 now.
I think I have something to say.
Okay.
I should go back to the starting position.
Mm-hmm.
So, what if, is it like white's turn or black's move now?
It's white's turn. The
Oh.
starting position is white's turn.
Oh, because I saw something for black that might defend.
Yeah, I mean, like black can just take white's queen, right? If it's black's, he can just take black or white's queen. That's it.
Yeah.
It's see, I always write it here. White whose turn it is to play. So pay attention to that. Yeah, so queen e7 is the best move. That's the reason. This sneaking across is, I just love this. You know, like it just sneaks across. Cool. So I think there are better, you know, like not better, but I think there are other moves that still leaves white with an advantage. For instance, queen into d6, probably white is still better, but it prolongs the game. Okay, so that's how I'd put it. After queen c5, it will prolong the game. Maybe I can also, can I take just rook into f3? Maybe I can do that. Right, this will just prolong the game a little bit. I take, and then maybe queen c5 now. I don't know. Plays queen f6, then I can just play. Then yeah, just stop this mating threat. Queen a7, already queen c7 prolongs the game. White is still better. No questions about it. White is still better, but this prolongs the game. So, and so the most precise and effective way to finish the game is just go queen e7, queen f8 mate. Black has no way out of it. Okay, so I'll just put here some notes. What is still better, but it prolongs the game. Best is queen e7 and winning. Okay, any questions before we move on? All right, so seems like no more questions. I'd like to do a few more positions in this topic. So let's just keep on doing that, and then we can call it a day. So it's still the same concept, an overloaded piece. You have to identify that overloaded piece. By the way, in the previous position, I forgot to ask which of black's piece was the overloaded piece. Just okay, so let me just go back here. In this position, which piece was overloaded? I think that's a simple question everyone can answer. And what it was overloaded with.
think it was the rook.
Which rook? The c8 rook? The rook on c8?
No, the rook on f7.
Okay, so, and what is it overloaded with? Why are we saying this is overloaded?
Because it's
What is it protecting?
it's protecting the like f8 square, and
Okay.
it's
F8
also
square and which square? Which other square?
the e7 square.
Anushka said it right. The g7 square, not the e7 square. See, I mean, two variations we saw was if he takes rook into f3, then there is a mate on g7, so it's protecting that. And if it takes the rook queen on e7, then we have a mate on f8. So that's another square it's protecting. So the rook on f7 is overloaded with the protection of these two squares. Of f8 and g7 squares. Let's put a diagram in here. Fantastic concept. Okay, so let's move on. All right, so I think this is the sorry, this is not the position. There is a pawn on b2. Okay, and it's again white to play, and the theme of the day is overloaded piece. And yeah, so white to play and win. Try to see an overloaded piece and find a win for white. Oops, not this one. If you start finding solutions or answers, send it to me through chat. So guys, I'll say one thing before blotting out your variations on the chat. Take some time to think. I'm not getting good variations, but a few variations from few of your friends. Take your time. Just take 5 minutes right now. Don't send any variations. Just think on it. You guys are too much in a hurry. Do not hurry. right. I mean, feel free to share your variation. But feel free to share your variations. All right, so seems like people are having few issues, or at least are not able to find a solution. Let's take a look at a few of the variations your friends suggested. Okay, so one variation that was given to me, I guess one of the few obvious variations is what happens if I just take queen into d6. So few things can happen. Obviously, well, black can play queen b6 or king a5, right? So rook b6 doesn't work because I can just take queen with a check and then I'm winning. We have queen b6 and we have king a5. King a5, white can take queen to c5. I mean, like queen to c5 is a blunder. Just take queen. But what you can do is take and take, and then queen into c5 check, and then king a6. And I think play will go on. White is 2 pawns up, so white is definitely better. But having said that, he has some work cut out for him. Maybe another queen d6 check, take another pawn. If black plays queen b6, that's not a good move because white can simply exchange the queens and just play b4. For any of you, like who might not be familiar with this, 3 pawns versus 1 or 2 pawns always wins. 3 pawns can always win on their own. So this is like a technically winning endgame. This is something we will be studying like maybe a few months from now when we go back to endgames. But this is a technically winning endgame. And I will show you how to win this endgame when we cover that, when we study the endgames. Okay, but black can play queen b6 and king a7. Then I guess just maybe take more pawn. But then you lose b2. Okay, so I will say that white is better, but it's not clear how to win. Like you have a lot of work to do. Just say it here that white is better, but there is a lot of work to do. Why I'm saying that is because especially in queen endgames, even if you're 1 or 2 pawns up, the opponent queen can give a lot of checks. and that makes winning difficult. Like you're still better, but the win is, to get that win, there is a lot of work to do. So that's how I would evaluate this position, maybe plus equal, because practically it's going to be a difficult win. So that's one variation. Obviously, after queen into d6 check, black can simply play queen b6. And okay, so like white can take queen into b6, and I don't know, maybe black can also just take rook into b6. That's one variation. Just stay in the rook endgame. He's attacking b2, so maybe black, sorry, white has to come g2. Then I can play rook b4, and then he has to come to rook c2. And white is one pawn up, so again he's better, but the same thing applies. There is work to do to win that game. So I'll just repeat this here. Right. On this. So sorry. So this is one thing that can happen. After queen into b6, black can also take king into b6. And if you go into pawn end games after this, like say take, this pawn end game is a theoretical draw. Even though white is a pawn up, this is a draw because black has a protected passed pawn. And because of this protected passed pawn, white will not be able to make a lot of progress. He will have to keep his king in the magic square of the black pawn, of this black e5 pawn, because if the white king goes out of the magic square of the e5 pawn, then black will be able to queen his pawn, right? So white has to keep his king inside the magic square of the e pawn, and then he cannot make any progress because of that. This extra pawn is not of much use here. Quick question: how many of you know what a magic square is?
I do.
Okay, great. E5 pawns, magic square. And so this position will be a draw. Right, okay, so both the variations don't really work for white as well. After queen into d6 check, okay, I can just play queen b6, and okay, I think that's the best move, and maybe black has good defense chances. So that's that. However, I do had like a very interesting suggestion from Archit, as well as I think Devish just suggested something. Okay, so I think Devish has nailed it, but Archit got the right idea, but not the right execution. So half marks to Archit. So like we are studying overloaded pieces, and at this point we don't see any overloaded piece, but after white's next move we will see a very, very prime example of what overloaded piece looks like. This should be promoted. Instead of queen into d6, white plays queen e8, and this is obviously a very brilliant move. And let's take a look at what white is actually threatening. So if after queen e8, if I give white an extra move, what he's threatening is he's threatening queen into a4 check. If king b6, then I play queen b5 checkmate. Okay, so that's what white is threatening. And if queen e8, if black takes white's rook, whoops. If black takes white's rook, then I have queen b5 mate. So let's say that's white's threat. So what essentially white did after queen 8 is that he's overloading the rook on b7. The rook is now protecting the checkmate on b5. And what else is it protecting? Can I play something like rook b6? Can I play rook b6 to stop my mating threat? Anyone? Yes or no? Unmute yourself.
No,
And why not?
because white can just take black's queen.
Right. So what else is black's rook protecting from here? It's protecting the mate on b5 as well as the queen on a7. So it's protecting these two squares, or like he's protecting the queen on a7 piece, and he's protecting the square on b5, which is a checkmate. So after queen e8, like in the original position, the rook, none of black's pieces were overloaded. In fact, white had this booby trap of taking some insignificant pawn on d6. The worthless pawn does nothing. But after queen e8, like he's sidestepping that greed, and he is giving a much bigger threat. What does white do? He overloads the black rook on b7. Right, he overloads this rook on b7. Now the rook on b7 certainly has a lot of duties. It has a lot of responsibilities. It has to stop the mate on b5 as well as protect his queen. And if you see this position closely, like black is in sort of a zugzwang. He really cannot do much here. He cannot move his queen. If he moves his queen to b6, then just take queen a4 check, queen a5, take, rook into b7, while I am a rook up, right? So all of these things happen by force. And the queen cannot go to the back rank because white's queen is controlling that. The rook cannot move. Okay, and if he moves his pawn on e5, then I'll just take queen a4 check and queen b5 mate. So the only sensible move for him is queen a5. And one variation I got here is queen b5 check, rook into b5, rook into a7 check, king b6, c into b5. Okay, so one of our friends says white is a rook up here because this is how he gets the rook. Does anyone see a flaw with this?
Yeah,
What's the flaw?
the king can just take the white rook.
All right, so okay. Anyway, I tried to tell this friend on the chat, but he was adamant that white is winning a rook after queen b5. So queen b5 is a mistake. I mean, like, doesn't lead to anything. But okay, Devish is leaving, so let's wish him a good day and good work for finding the solution. So queen b5 doesn't work, but as I said, like the rook on b7 is still overloaded, right? So he cannot move. So the best move here, what white does is that he plays queen c6. Another brilliant move. And again, like this rook is overloaded. I'll draw this, and yeah, now essentially black loses his rook. Like after queen c6, he has nothing else to do here. Right. There's rook here, then I take queen. If he takes rook, if he takes this, now this mate. And black essentially loses his rook. He plays something like queen b6, then you just take rook into b7, and I'm a rook up. So that's how this position ends. I mean, like that's the solution. Let's just take a look at it from the top. Beginning position. You have this tempting move, but don't take it. Just play queen e8, overload black's rook, and black is now in a very bad situation, and he has to play to stop queen into a4, you know, like he's threatening queen into a4, checkmate. So he protects it with king a5, then just simply queen c6. And essentially the game ends here, right here. Any question on this? We are also nearing the end of our lesson, so I'd be happy to take any more questions. If not, then we can call it a day and head off on our weekend. Any questions, you guys? All right, so I'm gonna assume no. What I will do is I'm gonna upload. Yeah. Okay.
So what topic still, is the topic still overloaded pieces
For what?
for the homework?
Yes. So today's homework will still will focus on that, and then next week we'll move on to a different topic. Today's homework will be light because I think we have already done a lot of overloaded pieces positions. So, and also we are coming from like a 2 or 3 weeks of vacation. I just want to give a light homework to start off with. But yeah. All right. So, any questions on this position? All right. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
But